Hi, I'm Pristelian, and in this video I'm going to be introducing you to the only ranger you need to clear the wastes of Colorado single-handedly on Supreme Jerk. Let me first ask you, how many turns does combat normally take you? If it's more than 2, you need this character. Perhaps you've been labouring under the false assumption that the sniper rifle was the correct way to open combat. As you can see, all you ever needed was a shotgun. The only tiny downside to this build is that it's just as lethal to your pets as it is the enemy. Okay, so let's start with skills. Making a build in Wasteland 3 is fairly self-evident. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that when you're making a build around a shotgun, you take small arms. Specifically, what you're looking to hit is 8 in small arms, right? This is the perk requirement and most of the shotguns available. Unfortunately, this shotgun, which is the explosive one, requires 10. Everything else is just building around 8 shotguns. Sneaky shit increases the damage you deal outside of combat, and finally the perk at 10 increases it even more. Explosives, because this is an explosive shotgun, and also it has the greatest synergy with small arms. Now these two, mechanics, this is because you are increasing the damage against robots, and there is a perk which basically buffs it up to 30%, and Animal Whisperer because it's very easy to pick up 6% crit or Billion Gene or something like that for just a single point in Animal Whisperer. Okay, so let's move on to perks. The 4 strongest perks in the entire game are right here, all in small arms. Primarily, we're revolving around 8 and Devastation, which increases the damage of a shotgun blast by 25% per target hit. Very simple to use, you simply increase the range as much as possible, catch as many targets, and press fire, they all die. Clear cover means that if they didn't die, they're no longer hiding behind cover, so you can have a better chance to shoot them. With Trick Shot. Now, Trick Shot is probably the most important item in the game before or around Devastation. And this, with a minus 50% hit chance, increases your strike meter to full. And it deals double damage against marked targets. Now, you'll have 5 other characters with marked target, which means all 5 characters will have 2 in sniper rifle to mark all the targets you want to trick shot, because you will be manipulating trick shot and strike meter all the way through the game. What does this mean? It means that you open with a normal shotgun blast, you then use your strike blast on your shotgun, you then switch to a pistol, fire a trick shot if anything's left alive, that has then refilled your strike blast, then you do a normal shot to kill whatever's left and move on to the next combat. The last most important one is draw, and this is incredibly important for the synergy with explosives. Now this is because a rocket takes 6 AP to shoot, but only 2 AP to reload. Now, as you can see, your first attack after reloading costs no AP. So we can now fire our rocket, as long as you bring it empty and reload it in combat, you can now fire 3 times for the same cost as firing it once. And also your trick shot strike manipulation also works. Oh, that's clear cover. Your trick shot strike manipulation also works for rockets. Okay, so let's move on from small arms. Animal Whisperer, you really only just need 1. That's to pick up a 6% crit from a cat, or Billion Gene to give you crit multiplier. If you put 5 points into it, you can double that, but you probably won't have the points available. Explosives, there's 2 very important ones, which is high impact, which means our rockets that were firing for 2 AP now crit, and blast radius, which means the radius is even larger, but of course it's quite expensive to get to it. In regards to mechanics, is one of the things that every rank of mechanics increases your damage by 3%, but it costs 10 to get 30%, but if we take 3, which is 9, and structural weakness, we get the same as if we had 10, at 29% rather than 30. The sneaky shit, you have 1 second extra time to faff around and make sure you get the correct shot, and lights out, which increases the damage by quite a lot. Okay, so let's move on to attributes. We've taken explosive rockets with explosive shotguns, so we've taken explosive damage. Sadomasochistic is good because we've increased the damage of everything by 33%, including the rockets and the shotgun. We don't have to worry about receiving 33% extra damage for several reasons. One, everything is already dead. 2, if they're not already dead, it doesn't matter how much damage you receive, you're just going to die anyway, because unless you've invested all of your points in strength to buff it up to maybe 90 or so armor, you're just going to die. It doesn't matter how much health you have. So you may as well not have any armor at all. And finally, you can bypass being shot completely by throwing out saw pups and turrets. The AI hates them so much that it will completely ignore your characters and just drill the turrets and the saw pups. So you always bring one guy with mechanics, normally a companion with melee because they're completely irrelevant, and you throw out the saw pups, and then everyone else is fine. Starting with the attributes, actual points wise, every character you make will have 10 intelligence. This is because you want to increase the crit chance and the crit multiplier. It also gives you 5 extra skill points that only work as you create the character and not by increasing it later on or any point in time after that. So you always want to get the most skill points you can, so an intelligence at the start. Starting from the bottom and moving up, charisma, we are manipulating strike rate with trick shot, so we don't have to worry about that. Leadership, everything's dead already, we don't have a use for it. Experience wise, it's not wrong maybe to take 4 in charisma because you won't always have a maximum amount of coordination. Speed you don't need at all. Strength, as I said before, armor is irrelevant. Okay, so moving on for the final 3 here, let's have start with coordination. Now, you always start with 6 AP, but for the low price of 1 point, you can get 7. Now, it costs 4 action points to fire the beginning shotguns, so you'll go with 8. You also need an extra action point to be able to fire the trick shot, as it then refunds enough to then fire the shotgun again, so you want 9. And you're not going to see much more value between getting the extra 2 after that. Of course, as you then proceed into the game, the cost of firing the shotguns drops to 3, and that again is 333. So then you need another one to get the trick shot. Whether you get the last one is entirely up to you. Moving on for luck and awareness. Now you look at this and think, this is where my range damage bonus is coming from and my hit chance, therefore I must take awareness first. This is not strictly speaking correct, because the damage bonus pales in complete comparison to the mega crit. And you want to have that 10% chance to mega crit as much as, as soon as possible. So normally what I tend to do is I get awareness up to 6, and then I put all the points back into luck, and then top out awareness. But ultimately, of course, once you get a high enough level, all of them will be capped. Final thing to look at with this build is, of course, what you're using. Now, the neutralizer shotgun comes from a 100 families vendor just outside of Colorado. They give it to you free if they like you, but it's really important to make sure they do as you leave. Let's have a little look at the modifying of the weapon. So the scope increases the range by 6 meters. As much as you can, you want that to be as large as possible because the choke increases the cone angle. Now, there are wider cone angles, but they reduce hit chance and other things, so that's not so good. You want the underbarrel to increase crit damage, and I have a magazine which reduces my AP to 2. It's much more important to reduce the AP on low cost weapons to fire than it is on high cost weapons to fire. And that is basically that gun. The other one you have, of course, is you just need a trick shot gun. It doesn't matter what it is, but I have hit chance on this one and hit chance on this one just so that my trick shot lands. So you take any 85% chance to hit gun and just buff it as much as you can. Then finally, you want to increase your crit, so you'll always be smoking and you'll always be juicing with focus and coffin nails. That's pretty much it for the build, because we've now, as you see, increased the explosive damage because it has 99 penetration. That's fine. You can take a jackhammer and modify it with like a plasma linkage. I also have cold and fire, upon which you do a weird science build rather than explosives. And that's the only difference. Great, and that's the entire build. Go forth and destroy everything.